We start at 10 now. The second day of our joint conference with CRRID, Pranab Mukherjee Foundation, and IP. These are three great institutions in the country. And when you talk of transition, transformation, I am sure these will come from institutions like CRRID, IP, and Pranab Mukherjee Foundation. They are on the forefront of bringing about transformation and change. So we are starting this session. We have Dr. Acharya, who is chairing this session. Kiran will introduce Professor Acharya. We also have Professor Hargopal, a very eminent senior colleague in India who is known for his work globally. And it's a great opportunity to welcome him. We also have Professor Jay Prakash Narayan, Dr. Jay Prakash Narayan, who is a medico and who set up Lok Satta. And I think all of us know about Lok Satta very well. So I hand it over to you.
A very good morning, everyone. So we welcome you to this technical session on political transition and transformation. Before we start the session, I have some important questions to be raised for the session. What causes political transformation and what are the basic conditions for democratic change in developing regions that would support this change? I think we have got a very good panel here, very enlightening panel, which will throw some light to all of us to understand this in a better manner. We have the chair for the session, Shri Dr. S.K. Acharya, former chairman and managing director, Neyveli Lignite Corporation, India. He is a visionary leader and an achiever. He has got around 37 years of rich experience, including working on the boards of various Navratna public enterprises across important sectors like heavy industries, power, steel, mining, etc. He has proven track record of leadership in promoting operational excellence in sustainable development and ethical practices of governance. Currently, he is the advisor and national professor at Birla Global University, Bhubaneswar. We welcome you, sir. We also have an eminent panelist today. We have got an eminent panelist among us today, Dr. Jay Prakash Narayan, I think the most popular figure in Andhra and Telangana. We are extremely happy, sir, you are in our midst today. Let me have a brief to introduce, sir. Okay, I'll just say that he's a former IAS and then he's a founder of Lok Satta. So we are extremely delighted to have you here. We also have Professor G. Harigopal, a visiting professor at National Law University, Law School, Bangalore. And sir was the head of the Center for Human Rights, Social Science School, University of Hyderabad. Thank you for being with us, sir.
He is at the center of change.
So thank you so much. So I request the chair to conduct the proceedings. The session timing is 1.5 hours. So, and we can have some QAs at the end of the session. Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Mishra, honored panelists, and ladies and gentlemen. In fact, the election period is on, and the timing to discuss about the politics, the Indian polity, and how it has been faring over the years. To be precise, since 1947, we got the right to self-rule. It has been 72 years. And we gave ourselves, we the people of India, a democratic republic with a parliamentary form of government. We have states, we call ourselves the union with the unitary spirit, and the federal states also are there. And over the years, what we have seen, the federal satraps are rising. And if we take the political scenario over the years, 1951 we had our first election, and that saw the Congress coming up as the one party with the ruling mandate, and it continued almost till 77. And 1977, a person with his name, though you call it that, he sort of challenging the things the way they were happening, mostly about the emergency that time, not exactly against the dynasty rule. I would not take that, but yes, changes were required, And 1977 saw a change in government. We got another government, and then of course the things, the way it happened, till 1992 this majority party thing happened, and after that the coalition has become the rule. So in a coalition government you have many parties joining together, coming together, and what they do is to form a common manifesto, common agenda. And over the years, the development benefits going to people, and the main agenda falling in the social sector, the economic sector, and of course having the system of checks and balances, executive, judiciary, and the parliament. Today, what do you find? The growth that we aimed at, the reformation that we aimed at, the happiness for our people and the citizens we thought of, have not been happening. Take the case of example of resurrection of Japan after the 1945, the Second World War, where they are today, so far as the overall growth and developments are concerned, and where are we? If we take into example the British-dominated earlier countries like Canada, Australia, and others, you see the way they have grown and the way we are growing. Though we are claiming that growth has been there and we are emerging as a good power to be reckoned in the international scenario, still much is to be done. And the benefit of development, benefit of progress is yet to reach us. And we operate in a multi-party system, and the people, those who talk, those who think, I don't know how many of them really vote also in the same way. And in a country we talk of democracy, and democracy not being really known what it is, that the self-government and the way we choose our representatives, they will give us good governance, that is the way we think. But the people, those who vote, votes are sold, votes are bought. So in that case, and when the votes total polling is something around 66%, imagine in a multi-party system, the party getting the majority or some parties joining together, what is the mandate they have? But still they rule, and they have been ruling, and in the process of ruling, lot many compromises have been done, and over the years we find the allegations of the dynastical ruling and sort of claiming that it is once we are there for the people at the time of taking the votes, yes, but once the election is over, we behave differently, and ultimately, it's the type of government we choose, we get governed by them. So it is for all of us to question ourselves, have the process of election, choosing the people, the governance over the years, have proven India to be a good, it's a big democracy, yes, it has got non-homogeneity, lot of diversity. To manage the diversity is another issue, and with the state federalism now coming up, and many regional parties now representing the local interest, not and those are again not in tandem with the national interest, like take the case of J&K that side, or the caste-based issues coming up, or the parties coming up, the MOI Samikaran in Bihar and other places. So all those things are there. So free and fair politics is one thing we are all telling that should happen, but is it further happening? We have our learned panelists with us. Without taking much of time, I just wanted to agitate our mind, and basically we have many young people, those who are voters, just perhaps will be voting maybe for the first time, because every 5 years it happens, unless there is some thing in between, the party collapses or the ministry collapses. So now the present government got a full 5-year term. It came with a landslide majority in 216th Lok Sabha, 2014, and that period mandate is over for 5 years. People are assessing now whether these 5 years were very fruitful, helpful, and really did it put India on the path of exponential growth that we are claiming that we should have. And now that we are going to choose the next government, so lot many issues starting from Rafale, but one thing is paining us, that we find people are going so low, going down basically, using this sort of, the words and insinuations one would not like to use. So what sort of model, and people we have seen also, people coming from the services, joining them. A couple of examples are there, but not much of the things are happening. Either it is a muddy battle over there, a bloody battle over there. Whoever joins starts behaving the same way to survive. And first perhaps is the own survival in politics, then perhaps the service to the country. But that is not the way it has to be. The parliamentary democracy means much more that we have to be sevaks of the people. We claim that we are the servants, but in practice it happens other way around, the way we see the ministers and others behaving. And these days with the Lok Sabha debate and everything being seen on the TV, if it is the youngsters are told that go for a mock parliament sort of session over here, and we would be really ashamed of ourselves the way our representatives behave. So do we deserve that sort of democracy, or a benevolent dictator, or could be a person? Maybe there is a difference between the Banswad and Bhaktivad. Maybe in Bhaktivad, when the personality is there, a good person delivering good for the country. Against this background, I would request Mr. Narayan to give his opening views, and after that, of course, I'll be coming to Mr. Hargopal. But at the same time, after the brief opening remarks, then we will be inviting questions from you just to put forward your thoughts. India deserves a better democracy, and better democracy for the benefit of the civil society, for the country as a whole, and the nation building should be uppermost in mind. With that, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Friends, I'll be very brief. If there's one surplus in this country, it is speeches. Surf-eater speeches. Let me make a few points by way of a curtain raiser so that we can stimulate a debate. In many ways, we are a successful democracy. I don't know how many of you have heard of Myron Weiner. He talked about functioning democracies, and he came up with 4 postulates. Competitive elections. Indian elections are the most fiercely competitive in the world. It's a matter of life or death. It's not about winning or losing an election. It's actually life or death. Political freedoms. I think almost all of us agree that we have a lot more freedom than we know what to do with. Because the 2 elements of our democracy are vote and shout. We go and vote, and we go outside and then shout immediately, Murdabad, bring down the government. So there's no dearth of freedoms either. The third is, the elected government is truly in power. Nobody can question, even in areas where they ought not to exercise power. Like, for instance, police investigation should not be controlled by any political functionary, but in India, we all know. So nobody can dispute the fact that the elected governments are truly in power, unlike in Pakistan, where the government may be elected, doesn't matter. Somebody else is in power. The fourth is, winners do not punish the losers. They're trying hard, but they're not succeeding yet. Just because somebody lost the election, he cannot be put away in jail and cannot be beheaded. Though you can send your goons behind them, after them, you can launch all kinds of investigations and cases, but on the whole, they're not very successful. To that extent, we are a functioning democracy. We also achieved some significant successes, don't underestimate them. The integration of princely estates was a remarkable achievement by global standards. There's no parallel in history. I don't want to go into details for want of time. 2, the institutions that we built, which ensured peaceful transfer of power, however dysfunctional our democracy is, we cannot deny that there is a peaceful transfer of power and there's some semblance of order. It's not great, we have complaints, but the Supreme Court, the Election Commission, the Finance Commission, the CAG, and a whole lot, and of course the Parliament and legislatures with all deficiencies, they still served us. Third, unprecedented linguistic diversity. I mean, nowhere in the world can you even imagine this degree of diversity, but I think the way India managed, our elites managed, is superb. It's a great example to the rest of the world, that there are 22 officially recognized languages with their own history, culture, literature, etc. And yet people sit and interact very comfortably without linguistic schism is a great measure of success in our country. The fourth, we started off with a very highly centralized union, a quasi-federal, actually largely unitary government for a variety of historical reasons. But we became a half-baked federal country. Actually, the movement is in the right direction. We are more federal than we were, but we are less federal than we ought to be. So these are successes, but that doesn't satisfy us. The reason why we are all deeply anguished is we feel we have underperformed. We feel that we are being shortchanged. And I think that view is absolutely right. I have done a quick study of 49 large economies in the world. Economies with more than $200 billion GDP. And I took a comparison of all the standard indicators with globally known data. There's nothing original. I didn't create any data. I simply took per capita income, per capita power consumption, per capita water availability, the portability of water, sanitation, lifespans, immunization coverage, quality of education, number of schools. These are standard things, global data, very, very credible sources. On every single indicator, out of 49 countries, India stands in the bottom 5. Every single indicator, no exception. I feared something like this, but I did not know until I actually did this study. There are 3 countries which are continuously in our company in the bottom 5, along with India, Pakistan. I don't understand why we are fighting. We are best friends, blood brothers. We exactly are doing the same way, destroying our lives in each of our respective countries. We don't have to destroy other people's lives. We are doing a lot of damage to ourselves, self-destruction. Bangladesh, Nigeria. The 5th country kept varying. These 4 countries are consistently in the bottom 5, but the 5th country kept varying depending on the indicator. I'm not saying this to say we are terrible. I already told you about our great successes. I take pride in our country. Somebody will easily say, Dr. JP is anti-national. This rubbish must be rejected or outright. The people who pretend we are doing very well are anti-national. The people who say, look, we can do a lot better are true patriots. Never doubt that. Never yield space to some jingoistic idiots who don't understand what is national good, irrespective of parties. So I'm saying this because there is a problem. We are underperforming. And what is the current election about? Luckily, I don't watch television, I don't read newspapers. The one time I pick up the newspaper to do Sudoku, my wife says, you say you don't read newspapers, so why are you taking the paper? I say, Baba, Sudoku karna hai. Otherwise, I don't touch them. But then still social media, a bit, once in a while I'm in touch. And I feel every time I should not be in touch at all. It's not edifying at all. Look at your media discourse. In education, despite bright youngsters, parental sacrifice, enormous societal, the value society gives to education, we are the pits. We are 73rd out of 74 nations surveyed in educational outcomes at the age of 15. Our research surveys, other surveys, again, for want of time, I don't want to go into detail. We consistently are putting us at the bottom, despite the kids who are smart, who are hardworking, even at the age of 5 or 6 or 7, the kind of weights you were carrying, the big bags and 10 kgs, 15 kgs, homework, morning to night, techno school, A school, Chaitanya school, Narayana school, all kinds of stuff. The parents sacrifice a great deal. It's not for want of ability. It's simply because we don't care. Pardon me if I am mistaken, I don't think any major political party in any one of their speeches or in the media discussions ever talked about where we are in terms of educational outcomes and what we need to do in order to make a better India. Not one single example. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed at this quality of discourse. How does it matter who wins? Or healthcare? Or the service delivery? There's not one among us here whose families has not paid a bribe in the last 1 or 2 years at a local government office to get something done. If anybody says, including Pranab Da, the former president in whose name the foundation, this foundation has been named, and which is organizing this, if any one of us claims that things are done routinely in government offices without a bribe, we are a bunch of liars. And we must set it right. We can set it right. There was enormous corruption in telephones. There is none today. We set it right because we did the right things. It's not that the problem is intractable. It's not because Indian DNA is full of corruption. That's rubbish. It's because we built our governance structure in a disgraceful way. We made our democracy a plutocracy. You understand what plutocracy is? It's a preserve of the super wealthy people. You want to be an MLA? How many crores do you have? 100 crores are all right. How much are you willing to spend? 20 crores. All right. चलता है, but वो कहता है कि 30,000 खर्चा करेंगे. Will you match 30 crores? This is our debate. Parliament, Lok Sabha. So I have 500 crores, 1,000 crores, because 100 crore wala is no good there. How much are you going to spend? 70, 80 crores. Acha, you are in contention. Plutocracy. And therefore kleptocracy. You have to obviously plunder. There's no choice. How will the system sustain? This is no democracy. It's a myth. One word about China, because the chair talked about dictatorship, is that, that's one common thing. Immediately people say, democracy, isliye aisa ho raha hai. And one word about the way forward. Then I hope in the discussion there will be something more productive coming. It is an extremely dangerous delusion to believe that China is doing well because of dictatorship. I want youngsters to really understand. This superficial garbage in the name of debate must end. Whenever China acted in an authoritarian manner, dictatorial manner, China suffered grievously. The Great Leap Forward, the great helpsman Mao Zedong, he came up with a stupid Great Leap Forward in the 1950s. The net result is 20 million Chinese died of starvation between 58 and 61. It was an act of unprecedented authoritarianism, draconian steps. And the result was unprecedented misery in human history. Then the great man came up with another stupid idea, the Cultural Revolution. Almost everybody who could contribute to Chinese society and economy and governance and its future, they were all discredited, destroyed, and 90% of the cultural relics of China were destroyed. China rose when they gave up the stupidity. China rose when they tried to democratize their society. Yes, they don't have the vote as we have. Actually, they do have some kind of vote at local level. But they certainly don't have the kind of vote that we have. They don't have the right to shout. But those are the only two things we have. But they have education of quality. In 8th grade, Chinese education is among the best in the world. Outcomes-wise. Among the best in the world. Healthcare, not that great, but pretty good. Compared to us, we are disgraceful. Infrastructure accessible to everybody, rich or poor, China is up there. And a lot of other things. They democratized. Vote and shout alone do not constitute democracy. They are necessary. But they alone do not constitute democracy. So do not be confused. Don't think authoritarianism is an answer. If you want authoritarianism, you already have one Modi. We had one Indira Gandhi earlier. Make no mistake about it. Modi is my good friend. I am not his enemy. I supported him in 2014, genuinely hoping that he would help bring about transformation because he has the kind of power, he has the personality, he has the determination, personally seemed to be unsullied by petty corruption, etc. There was genuine hope. So it's not out of malice I'm saying. If you objectively assess, what is demonetization but an act of dictatorship? Without thinking through, without even having the currency notes in place, without talking to anybody in cabinet, and doing it as you please. It was an act of dictatorship. And yet the people of India accepted it, hoping that something good will emerge. So it's not that we are a dearth of dictator. Every chief minister in India is a dictator. You think KCR is not a dictator? Or Chandrababu Naidu? Or any other chief minister in India? Chief ministers are monarchs in this country. Narendra Modi himself when he was chief minister. So let's not pretend that it's a dictatorship versus democracy. It is a dysfunctional democracy. How to build the right kind of democracy? Last word. Therefore, what is the way out? I'll be very brief. Normally, this should be my main pitch. But I don't have time, therefore I will only mention this. I live in an apartment complex in Panjagutta, in Somajigoda. Supposing I go back after this, go home, the elevator does not function. After all, I am now 63 years old. My mother is 87, she is with me now. Immediately what will I do? I will holler. I'll pick up the phone and say, Amitabh bhai, kya ho raha hai? I'm paying monthly 3,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees maintenance fee. The elevator is not functioning. My doctor is saying, don't climb up the stairs. You may think you're a young man, but your body doesn't agree with that. You can walk as long as you want on a flat surface, but not climb up stairs. All of us have that problem, right? Immediately I'll holler. Suppose it doesn't rectify it. Then we'll all sit together and say, Bhai, Ashok bhai, kya ho raha hai? Amitabh is no good. You please take care. Ashok will say, look, JPJ, I'm very busy. Then I'll say, look, I'm really busy, but doesn't matter. This is important. I'll take care. That means there is a link between two things. One, whom I choose, Amitabh bhai, to manage my residential complex, and what happens to me. Not because Amitabh is tall or short or Hindu or Muslim or north or south. The most important thing to me, even if I have those prejudices, is Amitabh bhai maintaining my elevator? Is my electricity all right in the house? Am I getting water supply so that if I have to start at 9 o'clock in the morning to come here, I can have a proper bath in the morning after a morning walk? Is there a proper watch and ward? Democracy works only when there is such a link between my vote and what happens to me, a deep understanding. In India, we killed it. It's a bogus democracy. Our democracy is about kitna paisa milega if you're poor for the vote from this fellow, from that fellow. Then with our money, with government money, kitna freebie milega? Free wo milega, ye milega, wo milega, ye milega, all kinds of freebies with our money, short-term freebies without enhancing my earning capacity, and divide us on caste, region, religious lines, because we are still a tribal society, a primordial society. The moment it becomes our own khandan, our own caste, region, religion, Andhra, Telangana, something else, we get excited. We lose sense of what is in our personal interest, our collective interest. The drain, the mosquito, the malaria, the healthcare, the school, the thousand other things that really matter to us, they simply disappear in thin air. Suddenly I become excited about Andhra, Telangana, Hindu, Musliman, Kamma, Reddy, or something else. These things they are doing to perfection. The only way is decentralize, and as part of that, federalize fully. Last word. Take Britain, a tiny country, 64 million population, one single language, mostly one religion, mostly one skin color, and a unitary country by the constitution. But do you know, in Britain, the electoral system in Scotland is not the same as in the House of Commons. In Northern Ireland is a further different one. In Wales is another different one, 3 different systems apart from the House of Commons. And in London City, there's a different election altogether, direct election of the mayor. And the European Parliament, until now they had European Parliament elections. The way things are happening, it's likely they'll have European Parliament elections in May again. It doesn't look like they can resolve the problem before May. It's a proportional representation. A tiny country, our mother country in many ways, which we emulated and imitated, has so many electoral models. Whereas our constitution, to give just one example of our centralization, has so centralized everything, all institution building, that an election in your panchayat or your municipality decided by the Constitution of India. Nowhere in the world do you see this. The political model in the state, or the political model in the local government, or how education must be imparted at school level, a Right to Education Act, well-meaning, but well-meaning doesn't make it better. One confusion many of us have is, just as I had confusion in 2014, Modi was well-meaning. I was confused. But well-meaning doesn't mean anything. What are the outcomes? Right to Education Act is well-meaning. Outcomes are horrible, disgraceful. I can cite you chapter and verse. So well-meaning is no good. What is the process we created to get the best possible outcomes, commensurate with our potential and our ambition? So we have to really bring true federalism without compromising the unity and integrity of the country. I am a fanatic about unity of the country. My unity is not one of idolatrous patriotism of Bharat Mata. My unity is because I realize that India cannot become 20 countries and live in peace and harmony. Harmony is one of the key themes of your conference. One partition of India taught that lesson. One Andhra Telangana partition, which is a minor thing, nothing changes, we are all citizens everywhere. The amount of strife and schism and emotional upsurge we have seen for 5-6 years, and even now how it's politically they seek to exploit, that shows that we simply don't have the strength as a society to divide into 20 countries and live in harmony as a common market without borders and without armed forces killing each other. Therefore, unity to me is paramount. But unity is not uniformity. You want a united India, but not uniform India. A joint secretary who earlier, until yesterday, was a secretary to government here, who was a general failure, goes to Delhi, and because a joint secretary tells me what I should do here in Hyderabad or in Mahbubnagar or in Karimnagar, what does he know about my locality? Unless the models are locally suitable, each institution, each college, each class, unless you have that kind of autonomy without giving up on unity, you cannot really prosper. And China is far more decentralized than India. Authoritarian, draconian China is far more decentralized than so-called democratic India. Unity is not uniformity. We require true federalism, true local governments, genuine rule of law, not a bunch of goons at the behest of those in power at a point of time in the state or the union. And that is what it is today. 80% people under trials in this country only because they didn't have money. People confess because they're beaten black and blue. And without confession, the conviction rate is under 10%, the lowest conviction rate in the world. The other cases are all with confession, and confession is always extracted through coercion, in many cases of innocent people. With that kind of a rule of law, you cannot build a great democracy. You cannot get the best results. The answers are self-evident. But the key, the central issue is decentralize. Doesn't mean that the local fellows are better. It means local fellows can be better controlled. We can assert, we can make them accountable and build accountability systems. If they misuse power, hang them, sack them, impose penalties, put them in jail. I have no quarrel. But empower, just as the empowerment in my own apartment complex tells me what is in my interest beyond my caste, region, religion. Makes me shout, even if I am otherwise busy, I realize that elevator is important, the water is important, I shout. I make it happen not because I love my fellow human beings, not because I'm a great patriot, because I love myself and my family. I have enough good sense. That is when democracy works. Democracy fails when you talk of Bharat Mata. Democracy works when you talk of the elevator or the water supply in your apartment. And let this election at least bring that, because I have no realistic hope or expectation that the current things on offer will do anything good to the country. That way is the most depressing election. But the hope is, if the right kind of verdict is now given, if the people understand that this centralized mobocracy, this centralized kleptocracy, this centralized plutocracy has simply failed. Forget theory, forget morality, it failed to deliver for us. And therefore we need to decentralize and we need to take charge. I think that will be the greatest contribution to the country's democratic evolution. And I want your generation, because it's about you. We are all lucky. No matter what we say, we still have our apartments, our homes, we still have decent incomes. And if Professor Hargopal makes a telephone call, says, I'm Hargopal, whatever his complaints, generally people say, sir, I'll do something. In an office or something, things get done. My secretary, the number of times he must have called somebody saying, Saab wants something and get something done. We all know. So we have no serious problem. But you deserve something better. This cannot go on. Don't fall prey to caste, region, religion, language, or party. Where is the party? Can you say which fellow is in which party? Shut your eyes and tell me. Except you can be sure that KCR and his son are in the same party. You can't say the same thing about Neville after 2 years or 5 years. You can be sure that Chandrababu Naidu and Lokesh are in the same party. Can you say about anybody else what is the party? What party? What rubbish are we talking? Where is the party? So don't go by that. What is happening to us, to you, to me, here, now? Rebuild our democracy from here, not from there. That is the hope for genuine transformation. And that's the only way all democracies functioned. And we need to discover that. Thank you.
Yes, the picture painted is not that good, but not without a ray of hope. We, people belonging to one generation, lived a life, I will not say a better life than our forefathers, but definitely better. And we also have a responsibility, what we inherited, to leave a better inheritance for the next generation to come. With that hope, we'll have to ask ourselves, what is our own culture? We need a leader. Democracy also will not function without a leader. And everybody cannot do the mantle of leadership. If we look now around, how many people are there with a great vision who can lead the country? So there perhaps the line between dictatorship and a good leader with a good vision, it gets blurred. And any democracy left to every people, and 60 to 70% people, those who really don't understand democracy, what sort of democracy would be expecting here if everybody is asked to rule? So centralization to a great extent is required, but at the same time, whether that centralization allows the freedom of operation. We have good policies, but bad implementation. And implementation is because we happen to be the bad implementers. Do we look at ourselves? We ask for our rights, but what about our duties? And the step, there was a time the caste backwardness, economic backwardness went together. We had something decided at that time, but every time it is being played to the public when all those justifications don't exist, still to perpetuate, because we play to the vote bank. So those sort of things are seriously to be asked to us, among ourselves, and what difference we can make. With that note, I would request Professor Hargopal to